Please like and leave a heart. Please.
There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show. I'm your host, David Gibson, here on another amazing Friday as we unlock the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry, one interview, one technical presentation, and one technical screw-up at a time. Let me know if everything's working. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've been here. Had an absolutely amazing time yesterday at the IADD Mud Motor Forum. Got to be able to see Fred Dupriest be able to present. Got to be able to see my good friend Dan Cervantes from HMP be able to present, as well as see tons and tons of clients and even some more people that might potentially be clients. And actually, we got told yesterday that somebody was tuning in, got the invite for the show, and is going to be tuning into the Vidor Locksmith Show for the very first time. So please, guys, let me know if this is the very first episode that you have ever watched. Get over to the comment section now. Let us know. Let us know where you're watching from. Love to be able to give you guys a shout out here on the show. Other news, last week was in Amsterdam, then Glasgow, Scotland, and then Amsterdam again, due to the fact that I opted for the 22-hour layover in Amsterdam on the way there and on the way back, just to be able to have a little bit of fun. But was in Glasgow, Scotland for the ISCWSA Industry Steering Committee for Wellbore Survey Accuracy. Had another great meeting, so a lot of great presentation and good talks in the subcommittee meetings. Specifically, the education subcommittee, which I am a part of, where we're trying to raise awareness about the group as a whole, right? And so just want to let you guys know, be sure to go check out the free ebook, The Introductory to Wellbore Positioning. Absolutely amazing book. It's free. It's out there. And if you're interested in being able to get educated further, we also offer a course through the ISCWSA. So be sure to go and check those out. Should have the presentations and other materials online pretty soon from the conference, just in case you are interested. All right, guys, let's say hi to some of the people here. So, of course, we got Mr. John DeWart. Good morning from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. First race weekend coming up at Road America. Wonder what's racing out there this weekend. Let us know, John. Very curious. Then Eric, hello from sunny south of France. These two, and they're always 1-2 here on the show, and I appreciate you guys very much for that. And we got Mr. Ian Persh here. Good morning from Woodlands, Texas. Good to be able to see him here. Ian with Keydrill, one of the other sponsors for the show. Today's sponsorship is brought to you by AI Driller. Is that in focus? No, but we found some swag. Tracy was looking around the office and we randomly found some swag from AI Driller. So we've got one of these cups to be able to give away today, a little Arctic cup. And of course, one of the 3D printed Gibson Reports drill bits. So be sure to check one of those out. Also tuning in this morning. Sorry, I don't know if I read that one. LinkedIn user, the other #1 viewer of the show, says good morning from sunny Alberta. Thank you for tuning in. And then Oscar, tuning in from YouTube, says good morning from Al-Kobar, KSA. Thank you for being here, sir. Do appreciate it. Oh, now I'm getting emails that are coming up, getting in the way. All right, guys. As of course, today is brought to you by AI Driller. So if you would put in hashtag AI Driller into the comment section now for your chance to be able to win the drill bit in Arctic Cup. I don't know. I've got some other swag over there. Maybe we can throw in one of the Gibson Reports hats or something. Maybe some random swag from another company that gives me swag that I don't need as well. I appreciate any swag that's given to me. I shouldn't say that. I appreciate it. I appreciate it all. All right, guys. Here's a quick message from our sponsor. If I can click the right thing here, and we'll be back with you right after this. Girl, I wanna hear you whisper it. Girl, I whisper it. Girl, I wanna hear you whisper it. All right. Thank you to our sponsor, AI Driller, for sponsoring today's show. Like I said, put in hashtag AI Driller for your chance to win the 3D printed Gibson Reports drill bit. No, you won't get this one because it was broken. We dropped it on the floor. You'll get a nice, pretty one. And the AI driller, Arctic Cup. All right. Without further ado, let's see. Eric says, put it in. Okay, I'm getting a call from somebody. Would you answer that for me, please, Tracy? It looks like a Houston number. It might be important. All right. Obviously, they don't know that I do the show on Fridays. All right. Without further ado, make sure I get all the little parts of things clicked here. Add to the stage, Mr. Ryan Walker. Ryan, thank you for being on the show today, sir.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, for those that don't know who you are, please give us a quick introduction on who you are, sir.
Let me before I do that, I got my drill bit you gave me right here.
Oh, yes. That's awesome. That makes me feel great. You said you were going to have it on your desk, and there it is.
Oh, it's always sits here. No, but thank you again for having me. So Ryan Walker, I'm Senior Vice President for Shumaker Advisors. We're a bipartisan, multi-client lobbying firm based here in Washington, D.C. We're part of a larger law firm, Shumaker, Loop & Kendrick. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of the law firm. That law firm is a 100-year-old law firm that's headquartered in Ohio. But about 3 years ago, I started the firm's full-time Washington operation and have since brought on two amazing partners here in Washington, Jason Wime and Chris Salemi. And then we have another guy who actually travels out here to Washington to help us, Derek Clay. So we're two Republicans, two Democrats, fully bipartisan, bicameral, out there to hustle for our clients.
Okay, I have got like a million questions for you. And so I'm going to say this for anybody who is watching today. If you guys want to get your questions in, you need to be able to start putting them in now, because this is probably one of the most, like, I always get really, I don't know, excited when I get to talk to somebody who I have no idea what it is that they do. Right. So it's you know, it's obviously something that's completely foreign to me, and I wouldn't even be able to, if you were my brother-in-law, they'd be like, well, what does he do? I don't know. He's a guy. He lives in the DC area. Okay, so with that said, all right. So would it be fair to say that your job is a lobbyist?
Yes, 100%. I'll wear that scarlet L proudly. I love it.
Okay.
I love being a lobbyist.
Okay. So what would you define? I know that word gets used a lot in the media and normally has a very negative connotation with it, which I don't think is fair for anybody to be able to be labeled that way. I know that oil and gas gets labeled that way a lot, and we are not that. So I kind of want to be able to get your opinion of, like, how would you define what it is that you do as a lobbyist? Look,
what I do is for our clients, the folks that hire us to either help promote, we do a lot of education and a lot of advocacy. So companies or organizations will hire us to basically tell their story on Capitol Hill and to regulatory agencies, mainly here in Washington, D.C., but we also have operations in state capitals around the country. So, for instance, if it was an oil and gas company, they would hire us to, monitor the regulatory space. So anything from EPA, DOI, DOE, anything from the congressional space legislatively, whether it's a piece of legislation that could hurt their company or help their company for that matter. We are advocating and educating members of Congress and their staff about the organizations that hire us, and ultimately what would help them or hurt them. We want to promote something getting passed or stop something getting passed.
Okay. I'm taking notes because there's a ton of ideas that are coming to my mind, and I don't want to forget them. Okay. So you say that you're going there. So instead of being called a lobbyist, should we say that you're a storyteller then, since you're going around and telling everybody else's story and trying to get their message across? Would that be a better way of saying it then?
Well, yeah, but we're storytellers, but I don't know. When I was young, my grandparents used to ask me if I was telling stories, which means but which I'm not. But we're advocates. We're educators. We're people. It's government affairs, government relations. There's a lot of different kind of terminology you can put on what we do here in DC.
So obviously, government officials are having to be able to put laws and regulations into place for industries like oil and gas. But their profession is being a politician, right? Not to say a career politician, but to be able to be a politician. That means they can't have the 15, 20 years of experience in oil and gas and be able to understand there. So is that where the gaps that you guys are trying to be able to bridge there, is to be able to get them educated up enough to be able to understand what it means to be in that industry, or the things that truly affect oil and gas industry, for example?
Yeah. Well, let me take one quick step back and think about so lobbying, or representation, or the right to petition your government, is what we do is essentially protected in the Constitution, in the First Amendment. And a lot of people have lobbyists and they just don't even know it. So I don't know whether you're a member of AARP, whether you're a member of the NRA, whether you're a member of Trout Unlimited, or whether you're pick an organization and you probably have a lobbyist in some way, shape, or form. What's that?
SPE, the Society of Petroleum Engineers.
They may, I don't know for certain, but they may have one. And so we're here to basically stand up for businesses. We're here to advocate for businesses, for people, for organizations. So that's basically, I want to just say that, look, there is a negative connotation a lot of times with lobbying, but a lot of times people have lobbyists and they don't even know it. I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, that's great. So then who would be like a typical customer for you guys?
So, like I said, we're a multi-client lobbying firm. We have, energy clients. We have a Christian nonprofit as a client. We have firearms manufacturer as a client. We have we represent the cellular and wireless industry. We represent CTIA, which is the Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association. I'll think Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. And so we we represent a building trades union. We represent the International Union of Elevator Constructors. So we kind of run the gamut. So, I mean, each one of us brings something different kind of to the table within the firm and for our clients. Our clients spend their time, let's just take the energy sector and the oil and gas space. Folks in that sector are spending their time, running businesses, drilling wells. They're not taking the time to necessarily, they're complying with the laws and the regulations and things like that, but they're not maintaining, an active eye toward what's going on in Washington or the state capitals. A lot of times they could affect their businesses. That's what we do for them. We wear, whenever we're hired by a client, I like to say, look, we want to wear your jersey. We want to, be on your team. We want to, get down and understand your business almost as well as you do. We'll never be able to do that, but we try.
It's the whole reason why we have the show, is just to be able to better understand our industry as a whole. So one of the things you said in there was monitoring. And so by that, are you saying that like potential legislation that's coming up that, I know, being a small business owner myself, that I'm always finding out about new rules or things that I have to be able to comply with, or, the whole reason why I have a separate HR firm that takes care of all of the things there. Is that some of the things that you guys are looking out for, is either bills that have been passed or things that are coming up to be able to notify your clients of?
Yes. So we monitor the legislative and regulatory landscape here in DC for any type of potential, notice of proposed rulemakings, the opportunity to submit comments, for our clients, any potential legislation that's being developed, and allowing or helping our clients to have a seat at the table. So we're there on the ground every day collecting intelligence for them. And communicating that back to them, either on a real-time basis or on a on a very frequent kind of interval.
Wow. So let's take an even further step back. How did you get yourself into a role like this?
I don't think anybody ever really kind of grows up saying, "Hey, I want to be a lobbyist." But here we are. So
whoever that kid is out there somewhere,
yeah, right.
It's okay, correct. You can have that dream.
So I moved to Washington about 22 years ago. I worked on Capitol Hill for 14 years. I started out in the late Congressman Paul Gilmore's office. He passed away in office, unfortunately. I was his legislative director when he passed away, and Congressman Bob Latta, who was elected to succeed him, asked me to stay on to be his chief of staff. So I was his chief of staff for 8 years and helped him get on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which now he's actually running to be the chairman of the full committee. Which is we can talk later about the Energy and Commerce Committee. I have a soft place in my heart for that committee. And then I left Capitol Hill, and I was an in-house lobbyist for about 5 years for BP. Spent the first 4 years there doing their downstream government affairs, everything from their three. Then at the time they had 3 U.S. refineries. Now they have 2. And then, they still had a petrochemical business before selling it to INEOS. I did that. They own Castrol lubricants, so I did that. And then the last year I was there, I did upstream, and it's totally 2 different worlds from an internal perspective, which was fantastic. And then during the pandemic, I left BP and started the Shumaker operation.
Fascinating. So with all of that experience and background, what were some of what would you consider your most successful moments while you were prior to BP, while you were working on the Hill?
Boy, I mean, spending 14 years there, they all kind of run together. But one of the things is I said I helped the congressman get on the Commerce Committee. That's an inside kind of internal campaign. But we with that is ultimately and to get on the committee, and that was for us because Commerce Committee covers about 1/5 of the.
Hold on, Ryan, just a second. I think you're buffering real bad. I don't know if it's just me or
not on mine.
No.
Yeah.
Is it buffering? No. Hold on, just a second. If I will be right back. Let me recycle my page and see if I can get this thing fixed. Reload. All right, Ryan, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right. If you would answer that question one more time for us, I apologize, sir.
No problem at all. So getting my former boss on the Energy and Commerce Committee, was one of the big wins for me because it was such an internal inside baseball campaign that to do the things you need to do to get on a top tier committee within the institution was was a lot of work in a multi-year process. And once we finally got on, it was great, because the Energy and Commerce Committee has one of the broadest jurisdiction, covers about 1/5 of the U.S. economy, from energy to tech and telecom to healthcare. So it's I think truly one of the best committees, if not the best committee in Congress. And one of the other things was really getting the opportunity to help people. I like to tell people I worked for 2 members, 1 district. It was my home district where I grew up in Ohio. So it was a labor of love for me as much as anything, getting to help, communities and people that I grew up with. And, even if, you start out as a junior staffer giving, Capitol tours and answering the phones, and then you move up kind of the ladder to work in the legislative space. And, but just getting to help some of these smaller companies who, sometimes don't have the government affairs or lobbyist representation like the big guys do, it's a good feeling. And especially when you work for a member of Congress who's dedicated to truly serving his constituents.
So tell us a little bit more then about the Energy and Commerce Committee. What does it mean to like how difficult is it to be able to get somebody onto the committee? Obviously, it sounds like you just can't sign up for it and say, "Hey, I want to help out." What does it mean to be able to get on there? And then tell us a little bit more about that committee in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the oldest committees in Congress, and it's what they consider an A committee. So you have your A committees, B committees, and C committees, and Energy and Commerce is an A committee, along with like the Committee on Appropriations, Ways and Means Committee, which is the tax writing committee. But to get on these committees, it's not, they want seasoned members who understand the policy, who are dedicated to kind of staying around and diving deep into the policy. For their constituents, but also from a national perspective as well, because they want people who just aren't kind of surface level, both from a member perspective and a staff perspective, because, going back to what we talked a little bit about earlier about, us advocating on behalf of companies and organizations, and, members of Congress, they're taking meetings oftentimes in 15-minute increments, sometimes 30 minutes. But so they're getting a bunch of different issues throughout the day, throughout the months and years that they're there. So it's having to have that consistent drumbeat of being in front of them and making sure that your issue is top of mind always. So, it's the Energy and Commerce Committee covers so much policy jurisdiction, that it's, and these are major issues: healthcare, energy, tech and telecommunications, AI now is in that space. So this committee is covering all of that ground, holding hearings, marking up legislation, sending legislation to the House floor after they pass it. So it's a big committee with a lot of work.
So let's dive into a little bit more of, obviously, we've got a very large oil and gas representation as far as the audience for this show. What does that committee mean to, just a regular oil and gas industry worker?
So there's 2 subcommittees on that committee. They have the subcommittee on environment and subcommittee on energy, which kind of encompasses the entire energy sector, and it covers everything except for oil and gas produced on federal lands. The Natural Resources Committee has the jurisdiction for everything on federal lands, but most oil and gas is produced on private or state lands. So all of the regulatory oversight of Department of Energy and the Environment Protection Agency, all of that happens at the Energy and Commerce Committee. So, everything from oversight to, the EPA's methane rule, permitting reform, and then they'll work with their counterparts on, the Ways and Means Committee or things like that to talk about and deal with tax credits or tax policy as it relates to the energy sector. So each committee doesn't operate, in a vacuum. They're talking to one another constantly, because sometimes bills will have, at least in the House, it doesn't happen in the Senate, but in the House you can have multiple bills that are referred to multiple committees. So if a bill could be referred to the Energy and Commerce Committee as well as the Ways and Means Committee, for instance. So, Energy and Commerce Committee is, to the average oil and gas worker, now on a day-to-day basis, it may not mean a whole lot, but from a macro level, in terms of allowing the industry to maintain its license to operate, to creating jobs, to expanding the industry, that's the committee that matters.
So what would be your message to, the oil and gas industry workers, that something that, happens there in DC, happens in the Hill, things that you're doing that you would want them to know, to be aware of, either to be able to talk amongst themselves or to be able to help them in, their voting choices?
Yeah, I think that, look, we all have busy lives, and they become busier every day, with kids and activities and, and work. And sometimes, the oil and gas workers, if you work offshore, you're gone for weeks at a time. But my message to them is look, this is part of your job. This is part of having that awareness, at least of what's going on around you at a macro level. You don't have to get into the deep policy weeds. Again, that's kind of our job, is to get into those weeds and to lobby on behalf of the companies or the organizations. They're spending their time drilling wells. They're spending their time producing the energy that this country and this world needs. We've spent our careers understanding oftentimes what I call the 4 Ps, or the people, the policy, the politics, and the process of Washington, so that we can navigate that on behalf of the companies and ultimately their employees. Because without the employees, the companies, we wouldn't have any companies.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having people and having them understand that's definitely going to help out. What are some of the other recent things that have happened in the energy sector that, maybe we should be aware of? Things that maybe you've communicated to your clientele base?
Yeah, I mean, just on a macro level, you look at the Biden administration recently closed off significant acreage in northern Alaska for oil and gas production. Excuse me.
That's important to me because I have guys that work in Alaska. So
right.
My employees, as we're talking about.
You have the methane regulations. You have EPA, which proposed, and it's undergoing kind of the rulemaking process now, to establish a methane fee for large emitters and to, quote, certify third parties to go out and identify large emitters, and basically to certify snitches on the oil and gas industry. But I just don't know. I mean, that's just what it is. And you have the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Administration in the next 30 to 45 days will probably come out with regulations regarding pipeline safety for carbon dioxide pipelines, because people don't want pipelines, people don't want oil and gas, but people want cheap energy. So quite the paradox. And so those are just kind of a a few things, but you have all of this policy activity. Not a lot of people on a daily basis are paying attention to it, and they shouldn't. I mean, that's not in their kind of job or what they do in daily life. But people do see what energy costs are, and since 2021, energy prices across the board are up about 30%, and people do see that, and people do feel that.
So, how difficult is it for somebody in your position to be able to get people to understand the implications of, some of these regulations, especially as it goes against the oil and gas industry? Somebody embedded into the industry will see that, natural gas is a good, clean burning fuel, right? It's abundant here in the US, helps us to be energy independent. But some people just see oil and gas as still being this, very dirty, maniacal industry. So how do you essentially attack some of those issues, and how difficult is that for you?
Look, it's members of Congress and their staff are bombarded with multitudes of issues every day, all day. So it takes a consistent drumbeat of activity. First, you have to start by educating them on what the policy or a proposed policy or a proposed regulation means to the industry, means to a company, means to oil and gas workers. And then you can move into kind of an advocacy, kind of posture. Now that all goes out the window if there's a crisis and you have to move directly into an advocacy posture now. But most of the time we're here, people hire us not because their hair is on fire, but because they need a consistent drumbeat of education and advocacy to maintain their license to operate, to maintain an industry that is capable of sustaining large-scale energy productions, as it relates to the oil and gas industry.
So would that be the same that, I guess, I don't want to say that there's opposing views in energy, because energy as a whole is needed. Is it just other portions of energy, let's say it be renewable, they're doing the exact same thing with a lot of the other congressional staff there on the Hill, that you've got essentially competing lobbyists that you guys are, I guess, pushing each other out of the way to be able to do the same thing every day?
Yeah, there are a lot of competing voices, competing people, competing firms, but it's about knowing, it's about having a good message and knowing your audience. And if you're going in to talk to a Republican member versus a Democratic member, you're going to change the perspective from which they'll be able to hear it best. I'm not going to lie to them or anything, because look, the moment we all as lobbyists operate on our, the integrity that we have, because once you lie to a member or a staffer and they find out about it, or it causes them to advocate to their boss or to vote for a certain thing that's against their interest or against their constituents, yeah, you're done. Nobody will ever listen to you again. But you have to understand your audience and craft the message in a way that they'll understand it, and that is right for them in their politics. So you go in to talk to a Democratic member of Congress about oil and gas, and it's about energy cost. In that particular instance, it's about their constituents, of what ultimately they're going to be paying for energy costs if we're not continuing to develop, domestic supplies of it. or being, national security. If that's their thing and a policy, you're talking about national security rather than producing it here at home versus being reliant on someone who's not necessarily a friend to the United States. So there's a multitude of different ways to cast your message. It's just, it's just being aware of your audience and being consistent with that message, because they are being bombarded from competing interests.
So you brought up a good point there about, the international side of it. How often are y'all looking at international policies that are being brought about? Because the oil and gas industry is a international business. A lot of the people that work here in the U.S. have worked abroad in many other locations. And you've got organizations like OPEC. How often are you looking at what's happening there and any of the policies that are being presented or passed in other municipalities or governments abroad?
Yeah, I mean, we're mindful, and we monitor what goes on, but we're not actively obviously lobbying in Brussels or any other country. Our lobbying focus is here in Washington, D.C. and state capitals around the country. So while it's important to maintain that worldview, we're really focused on what happened, at least for the three of us who are full-time here in D.C., what goes on here in Washington.
All right. Well, John's got a great question here for us. So would the recent Liberty CEO Chris Wright's testimony in DC be coordinated through a lobbyist effort?
A lot of the times, yes. So we are working. So a lobbyist's job is to work with their client and committee staff when they receive an invitation to testify, or oftentimes we want our clients to testify. We'll lobby, and we'll lobby the committee to say, hey, look, you should talk to our guy, our CEO, our CFO, whoever it is, about testifying before the committee during a hearing. And then a lot of the times we will help write that testimony as well. I mean, ultimately, it's the clients to accept it, edit it, reject it, but we'll help them come up with a standard framework, as to kind of how congressional testimony goes. But the meat of it comes from their experience and their knowledge of the industry, because ultimately that's what the committee wants.
So break it down for us a little bit on what it means to be able to testify to a congressional committee. How important is that? How much does that weigh on the decisions that the Congress ends up making? I see news clips all the time of people, being called to testify before them. But I mean, other than that, I really don't know what else it means.
So you can be subpoenaed to testify, which is, never a good thing.
I was going to say that doesn't sound like an invite to a party.
that is not an invite to a party. That's like being called to the principal's office. So, when they have legislative hearings or hearings on specific policy topics, you're often invited to testify and share your perspective and answer questions from members of Congress. Now, the decision to testify or to accept that invitation is an important decision, first and foremost, because when you testify, you're before the entire country. You're you're putting yourself there, to either be ridiculed or to be praised. And a lot of the times in the oil and gas space, specifically in the oil and gas space, you're not putting yourself up there to be praised. It's often you're there. You're also receiving the incoming, right? You're taking the arrows. So it's good from especially if you have someone very knowledgeable like a Chris Wright or someone like that who is looked as a thought leader in the industry,
or J.P. Warren.
Or J.P. Warren. But you're you're also, it's a double-edged sword. Always, you have to consider the risks and the opportunity of testifying.
So what would you say would be a successful testimony for somebody? Is it just like a quick soundbite that ends up on all the news media channels, or is it just somebody that comes in and is able to properly educate both sides of the aisle, of whoever's sitting on the board there?
Yeah, I think the latter, in terms of what you were just saying, is, you want someone to come in and be able to offer testimony and answer questions, and be and be perceived as a respected authority on what they're talking about, and have the members of Congress from both sides, whether they agree with you or not, walk away and be educated, receive the information. You never want them to walk out of the hearing and into the hallway in front of a waiting media camera, oftentimes, and lambaste you or lambaste your client. You want it to be the hearing, to be educated, and then kind of that to be it. And then you can continue your advocacy efforts rather than to have to do crisis media management at the same time.
So the goal there is don't end up on YouTube.
Or CNN or Fox News or anything like that.
All right, so we've got another. This is a great question here from John DeWart. Do you ever get frustrated by a lack of real understanding of energy issues by politicians? If so, how do you manage it? Phenomenal question. I should have actually.
It's a very good question.
Yes.
Yes, I do. And look, I am, I'm not an engineer. I don't understand it like engineers do. But one of the things that I'm able to do is on a daily, a weekly basis to talk to congressional staffers, to talk to members of Congress, to have that consistent drumbeat of messaging, and it's just a drip, right? Your policy isn't, Rome wasn't built in a day, and congressional policy surely isn't passed in a week. And it takes a while. It takes months. It takes years to get good policy through the institution that Congress is, especially the United States Senate. But it is frustrating, but you have to know every day you're talking, you're moving the ball forward. I jokingly say we get paid to talk, and we're talking every day to members and to staff, to that constant drip, finding those opportunities to interact with them on behalf of our clients to get that message out. And it takes a while, but it's frustrating. I won't sit here and lie and say it's not, because a lot of the times, people's politics do get in the way, and you have to find the right message to either break through that or to try and soften it, if you can. Sometimes there's just, there are members of Congress that just don't agree with where you're at, and that's okay. You move on. Not everybody's going to always agree with you. So it's frustrating. And then oftentimes what we'll do to help mitigate that is be like, well, okay, you've talked to me, multiple times about this particular issue. Now I'm going to bring my client in to meet with the congressman or congresswoman, or the committee chair or whomever, one of the electeds, to hear directly from them. So you bolster what you've been saying by the real authority, who is your client.
So how difficult is it for you to be able to get those meetings? Is it just, kind of carte blanche? Or you guys just walk in the door and just start walking up and down the hall and, kind of see somebody sitting there and you're like, hey, let's start talking? Or, you guys having to set meetings? Kind of what is the day-to-day routine for somebody like yourself?
Well, on the meetings aspect, it takes weeks to get on, especially if you want a member meeting with a senator or a member of the House. They have, that's all they do all day is meetings and committee hearings and things like that. And it's tough to get on the calendar, so you have to start weeks in advance. And even the day of the meeting, sometimes with the congressional calendar, it gets moved. And instead of sitting down in a member of Congress's office, you're sitting with them over in the Capitol after they vote on the floor. They're coming to one of the rooms off the floor and meeting with them for 5 or 10 minutes there. So you have to have your message prepared and tight. It's the elevator speech, and to provide that summary, and then so that it gives you an opportunity to have a follow up or something after that. It's not just a one and done. And from a day-to-day perspective, we're spending our time on Capitol Hill. Every day Congress is in session. We're up there talking to members and staff, finding opportunities to engage with them. There's, like the oil and gas industry, there's all kinds of happy hours or events or different things like that we can engage with staff and members at. So it's either having meetings that we've scheduled on our own on behalf of our clients, or we are in the vicinity of Capitol Hill where people tend to congregate at different clubs or things like that, and we're interacting with them there.
So there's just a local bar and hangout for everybody.
Typically there's two distinct clubs, right? So there's the Capitol Hill Club, which is also known as the National Republican Club, and then there's the National Democratic Club, which are think of the Petroleum Club in Houston, right? It's like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, like John had asked, the frustration you've talked about, this is, that constant beating of the drum, that, you've got to start with the elevator pitch, and then you get a meeting after that, and that this can take, a long time period. Give me, what does it feel like for you when you do finally see a law pass, or you see, you guys get that message to the finish line and see a positive vote take place on on what you guys are lobbying for? What does that feel like?
It's I jokingly say these are our Sports Center top 10 moments, right? It's you just hit a walk-off home run and all your teammates are at the home plate to give you a high five, in a kind of a nerdy way. Those are our high five moments. When we finally see what the end result is for a client and what it means to them, those are the times that we celebrate those wins. And sometimes it's not even just a bill, getting passed or anything like that. It's we've been trying for months to get a meeting with a particular senator, or we've been trying to get in to see the EPA administrator, or something like that. Those are, celebratory moments. People will think, oh, it's just a meeting. But no, these people's, the demands and the incoming for a lot of these folks' schedules, and you're able to get a spot on that schedule is cause for celebration.
So you're looking at even just I don't even know how to say this. I guess other departments within the U.S. So the EPA, like you said there, the EPA administrator and other people like that. So it's not just the congressional people. It's also some of these other I don't even know what to call them.
It's the regulatory agencies. It's EPA. It's DOE. It's DOI. It could be Department of Commerce, Department of State. It could be the White House, meeting with someone from the National Economic Council. We had a client in front of John Podesta, who took over for John Kerry as the climate czar. It's to talk about their particular projects and their needs and what they're doing. You better believe when we got a client in front of John Podesta, that was a top 10 moment right there. So it's those things. But it's all working toward an end goal of what does this mean for the company? What does it mean for its employees?
Wow, that is. I can see that is a lot of work, and it would definitely be one of those moments where you enjoy yourself an adult beverage at the end of the day. What percent of the dialogue is going on with their staff prior to able to get in the face of the actual representative?
Good question. And people say, well, if you're not talking to the member of Congress or you're not talking to, the senator themselves, it doesn't mean anything. Well, as someone who worked on Capitol Hill, we have as staffers, you have the ear of the member. So probably 80, I mean, if I had to put a number on it, probably 80% of the time is talking with staff and educating them and advocating to them, and then getting to the actual member of the House or the Senate and talking with them. So it's probably 80% is staff work, but it all kind of culminates to a meeting with their boss.
Interesting. How big are the staff for a, like, I mean, once again, things I have no idea about. An incoming brand new congressperson, do
an
they
average
get a staff? How do they?
Yeah, so an average staff of a member of the House is 17 or 18, and that includes their staff in Washington and in their district. So
Wow.
we had, because they represent about 900,000 people in the House, is roughly the number. I don't know what exactly is off the top of my head. But they had, like, when I was the chief of staff, we had 2 or 3 district offices with, at least 1 or 2 people in each office, depending upon how big the area is around that office. And then we had 8 or 9 people in our Washington office. You have a legislative team. You have the chief of staff, the communications director. You have a scheduler and executive assistant, serves the same role. And the people back in the district are the ones, like, when someone comes in and says, hey, I didn't get my Social Security check, or I didn't get my Veterans Affairs benefits, they're the caseworkers that are working on that directly for the constituents. And then the Senate, they typically have bigger staffs because they represent an entire state. So it could be, 40, 45 people, give or take.
Wow. That is beyond imagination what I thought it was. I thought it might have been like a team of 4 or 5 people. I didn't. 17 just for Congress there.
It used to be, but as the districts and the sizes have grown, the population has grown. It takes more to to adequately provide those constituent services.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, like, that's what people see. Like, if I go into a member of Congress office, and I need my passport renewed, or I don't have my veterans benefits, they're going to care a lot more about the outcome of that than they are oftentimes a particular policy, that's talked about in the news, because that impacts their daily life.
So what are some of the other things that, like, people should be reaching out to their representatives about? So I guess beyond policy making, what are some of the, like, things that they can do for, their constituents?
Look, they can, members of Congress have the ability to help their constituents with a lot of things. I mean, whether, like I said, it's, I didn't get my Social Security benefits, or my veteran, the VA is messing around with my benefits. I'm traveling in 2 or 3 weeks, and I lost my passport and I can't find it, and I need a new one. Or I need members of Congress make appointments to the military academies, the service academies. So whether it's West Point or the Naval Academy, where they want a flag flown over the Capitol to represent to mark a specific occasion, or they want a letter from a congratulatory letter from their member of Congress to someone on their retirement as mayor for 30 years. There's a lot. So and just on general policy and things like that, people shouldn't be afraid to to call their member of Congress or to email their member of Congress about their concerns, because ultimately that's who they work for. They have my former boss used to say I had, when the districts were about 720,000 people in the district, he said I have 720,000 bosses. He goes, even if they didn't vote for me, he would always say, I'm here to serve them. And that was kind of his position.
So tell me, what's the strangest request you've seen, and what was the funnest request you have fulfilled?
Strangest. Boy, that's hard. I don't even know. That's like a because like members of Congress can give their constituents like Capitol tours and arrange White House tours. I think we had, when I was a young staffer, I had a guy who wanted a tour of the CIA. And I'm like, no, I don't. They don't really do that. And
tell me everything you're not allowed to tell me.
Yeah, right. I'm like, no, they don't just let anybody in. And probably the most fun, that meant a lot was, so I forget, it was after, I think we had a constituent after, I think it was a natural disaster somewhere in the world. And they were traveling and they were stuck in a country, and we were able to help work with the State Department and the embassy to safely get them out, along with other Americans, and to get them back home was another one. But also, so a lot of communities will do these honor flights, where they will bring World War II veterans, and it's a dwindling population. They'll fly them in for the day, take them to the World War II memorial. They'll have like a little ceremony there. The members of Congress who represent the area will come out and greet the group. And man, I tell you what, that touches your heart when you see these World War II veterans see the World War II memorial for the first time, and the tears come to their eyes. And just the gratitude that you have for them and what they've done for this country is profound.
Well, I have two amazing comments here as we round out here at the end of the show. Eric has said, that's my biased vision of lobbyists changed. Thanks a lot for that. So you've
good.
You've won over one there. And then John says, Eric, indeed, Ryan represents his profession very well, educational and enlightening.
Thank you.
So you've won over a couple of guys.
I guess I'm an okay lobbyist. I just changed some people's opinions.
So you're doing a good job so far. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna chalk that up as a win and just take the rest of the day off.
All right. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Anything else that you would like to be able to share with anybody that's watching? Any educational things that people should know about you, your job, or just policy in general?
Yeah, look, we're three guys here in DC who are workhorses. We're here to work for our clients. And a lot of the times people think, oh, lobbyists are expensive. It's like, smoke and mirrors and, backroom dealings and things like that. And, we watched the movie Thank You for Smoking, and you see these, these lobbyists and their, high dollar and things like that. Look, we're guys, three guys here who are blue collar backgrounds and want to work for our clients. So if you have a need, don't always think lobbying or government affairs representation is too expensive. We're here to help you, to work with you, and on cost and things like that. But but beyond that, let me kind of go to just a general statement. Look, politics and policy. Politics drives policy. So you have to be engaged in the political process. First and foremost, you got to vote. You got to stay aware of the politics for your own personal life and your profession. and I'm not saying doing deep dives, but just be aware of what's going on. And look, I'm always available to answer any questions or talk to folks. You know, I'm on LinkedIn, and people can reach out to me there. But look, I love what I do. I'm very passionate about the energy industry, and I love to help clients.
Well, I mean that's phenomenal. I mean, like I said, I've learned so much through this, and I would love the opportunity. I would love to be able to come out there to DC with you guys,
Yeah.
and be able to, you know, kind of get that, go see the clubs. You know, that part of it would be fascinating. Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being on the show. This gives me tons of ideas of things to be able to even be able to just reach out to you guys, talk to you guys about things that could definitely help our industry. And almost forgot, AI driller. That was our let me.
And I'll keep this on my desk all the time.
Share screen. Where's the Chrome tab? There we go. Giveaway tool. Share that. So we're gonna do a drawing real quick. Got to put this on the stage. There we go. All right. Let's see who our winner is for today, and it is drum roll. John Dahl. He's won before, but you keep watching the show. There we go. John, thanks for tuning into the show today. You will be getting your 3D printed drill bit and AI driller cup. Thank you, sir. Do appreciate it. Once again, Ryan, thank you so much for being here, being on the show, and doing everything that you do for our country and our industry as a whole. People, definitely anybody that's watching, be sure to reach out to him on LinkedIn. That's it for me. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. And as always, know your industry. And I didn't have the button ready to go. Oh, hold on. Where's it? There we go.